Listen to me, and listen with your soul, because I am done with the watered-down, filtered versions of the gospel that make you feel comfortable in your bias. We talk about loving Jesus, but many of you are in love with a ghost of your own making, a version that looks like your neighbor instead of the man from Nazareth. The truth is right there in Isaiah 53:2, telling us that he had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. We are talking about a Middle Eastern man with olive-tan skin, the kind of skin that some of you today would label and fear at an airport, calling him a terrorist before you'd ever call him savior. Stop lying to yourselves and look at the history of the people from Nazareth. Look at the lineage that God chose, because it forces us to confront our own prejudices. You want to talk about the features on the shroud, that elongated face and those hollowed cheeks. That wasn't a fashion statement. That was a man who was starved for a week, denied a single drop of water during a mockery of a trial, and beaten until his features were nothing but bone and bruised flesh. He was malnourished, bled out, and abused beyond human recognition, yet you want to hang a pretty, polished picture on your wall that ignores the gritty, bloody reality of his sacrifice. It is an absolute tragedy that so many still cling to slave traditions and the dark history of native genocide, afraid to post a dark-skinned Jesus because you are terrified of what people will think of you or your social standing. If you are ashamed of the reality of his skin, you are ashamed of the reality of his humanity. That isn't faith. That is a corrupted mind drowning in confusion because you care more about fitting into a broken social order than being true to the King of Kings. Revelation 1:15 describes his feet like bronze glowing in a furnace and his hair like white wool. Yet you keep trying to bleach the gospel to fit a narrative that was never meant for God's children. Jesus died for every single one of us, but he didn't die so you could keep holding onto your prejudices and your proper images that were designed to keep people in chains. He died to break those chains. We must call out the evil of racism and the shame of religious tradition that hides the truth, because God is not a God of comfort. He is a God of truth. If you believe in the precious blood and the sacrifice of the cross, then start acting like it by honoring the man as he truly was: fearless, bold, and unapologetically real. Stop worrying about the labels of men and start worrying about the heart of God, because at the end of the day, Jesus is the owner of this world, and he isn't looking for followers who are ashamed of his reflection. He was a carpenter with calloused hands and sun-drenched skin, a man who looked like the very people the world marginalizes today. When you see the face of the oppressed, you are seeing the face of the one who saved you. Isaiah 52:14 says his appearance was disfigured beyond that of any human being, marred beyond human likeness, all because he loved you enough to let his beauty be stripped away so that your soul could be restored. Don't you dare trade that visceral, powerful sacrifice for a postcard version of a savior who doesn't challenge your heart. Stand for the real Jesus, the Middle Eastern king, and let the light of the true gospel burn away the lies of the world. Stop looking for a Hollywood idol and start looking for the King of Kings who actually walked the dusty roads of Nazareth. We have spent centuries sanitizing the gospel, bleaching the skin of the Messiah until he looks more like a European conqueror than the Middle Eastern carpenter he truly was. I am here to tell you with love and fearless fire that if you are worshiping a polished, whitewashed version of Jesus, you are worshiping a ghost of your own bias rather than the man who bled for your soul. The prophetic blueprint in Isaiah 53:2 explicitly tells us that he had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. This was God's intentional rejection of idolatry. He bypassed every human law of attraction so that you wouldn't follow him for a pretty face, but for the life-giving truth that poured from his lips. We are talking about a man with olive-tan skin, a man whose features were forged in the heat of a humble, overlooked town. Yet so many of you cling to slave traditions and the scars of colonial history because you're afraid of what the world will think if you post a dark-skinned Jesus. That isn't faith. That's a corrupted mind choosing social comfort over spiritual reality. Look at the reality of the passion. By the time he reached that cross, he was malnourished from a week of agony, dehydrated while carrying the weight of the world, and so disfigured by the beatings that Isaiah 52:14 says his form was marred beyond human likeness. He didn't look like a king on a throne. He looked like the least of these that society marginalizes every single day. He chose to look like the oppressed so that no one, regardless of their skin color or social status, could ever feel excluded from his grace. If you are ashamed of his true reflection, the hollowed cheeks, the bronze feet described in Revelation 1:15, and the rugged humanity of a Middle Eastern savior, then you are missing the heartbeat of the cross. It's time to break the chains of prejudice and honor the man who was beaten until his features were nothing but bone and bruised flesh for your sake. Jesus is the owner of this world, and he isn't looking for followers who need a filtered savior. He's looking for bold warriors who love the truth enough to speak it without sugarcoating a single word. Stand up for the real Jesus, the one the world tried to hide, because he is the only one with the power to set you free. Please follow my page so that you don't miss what's coming next. Please feel free to like, share, and comment. Let's spread the light. Thank you so much. With love always, Maria DC Santiago.